信心百倍的打好这一场阻击战、总体战，打好这一场人民战争。
At the start of February 2020, a cruise ship named the Diamond Princess was heading at full speed for the port of Yokohama in Japan. Sadly for the passengers, it would be a very long time before they'd be going home. Their cruise had been cut short by illness on board. One of the ship's 3,700 passengers had developed a fever, and on February the 1st was confirmed to have contracted the novel coronavirus. From that moment, the fate of the thousands of passengers and crew from more than 50 countries and regions would be bound together. By early 2020, the pandemic was spreading rapidly across the world. By the end of May, millions of cases were confirmed, and many countries were in the midst of a crisis. COVID-19 was becoming the worst public health emergency faced by humanity since the Second World War. Rather like the cruise ship, our Earth is sailing in the vast sea of the universe with humanity as its passengers. Every nation on the planet was sharing the same fate. By helping one another and remaining open to the outside world, they could work together in the fight against the pandemic. As the situation grew more difficult, so the need for decency and compassion became more vital. The first signs of COVID-19 were detected at the end of 2019. On December the 31st, a working group from China's National Health Commission and a team of leading experts arrived in Wuhan. 3 days later, China informed the World Health Organization of the situation. It also started providing regular updates to other countries and regional organizations, as well as Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, concerning the prevention and control and measures it was adopting. Reports were also sent to the United States.
To move from hearing about the outbreak to finding the virus, identifying it, and producing the genetic sequence and making that public to the rest of the world in 2 weeks is unprecedented. It's incredibly efficient.
Speaking on January the 20th, President Xi Jinping emphasized the need to deepen international cooperation in controlling and preventing the spread of a potential pandemic. A meeting of the Politburo Standing Committee on January the 25th called for strengthening cooperation and responding swiftly to safeguard regional and global health security. Humanity has experienced many devastating pandemics throughout history that have caused heavy loss of life. The damage has also been felt globally in political, economic, social, and cultural terms. From the very beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak, China acted responsibly to safeguard public health worldwide. The country's attitude, based on its belief in a global community with a shared future, was to maintain openness and cooperation. A virus knows no national borders. A pandemic is the enemy of all humanity. From January the 13th, many countries, including Thailand, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Singapore, France, and the United States, started reporting their first confirmed COVID-19 cases to the WHO. Evidently, the spread of the virus was picking up speed. It was a sudden, unexpected war against a virus that indiscriminately attacked anyone, regardless of nationality, region, or race. More than ever, people needed to believe in a shared destiny, if they were to defeat this common enemy. The battle would have to be fought in the spirit of international cooperation. In February, China was going through the most difficult period in its people's war to prevent and control the virus. While directing the forces in person on the domestic front, President Xi maintained close contact with his counterparts abroad. During February, he met 2 visiting foreign leaders and corresponded by letter or telephone with 14 others, providing them with key updates on China's progress in the battle against the pandemic. In his communications, he also repeatedly expressed his hope to step up cooperation with the wider international community. China's international cooperation efforts have been intense and pragmatic. Through the WHO-China Joint Mission on COVID-19, China passed on its experience to other countries. It regards a global community with a shared future as not just a concept, but as an important practical undertaking. It is a vision President Xi has explained repeatedly on the global stage since the CPC's 18th National Congress in 2012. China was determined to join hands with the rest of the world in the fight against the coronavirus, based on its belief in a global community with a shared future. The early days of the war on the epidemic were not easy for China. But it didn't stand alone. Many countries came forward to offer help. A memorable gesture came from its northern neighbor, Mongolia. On February the 27th, that country's president, Khaltmagan Batulga, became the first foreign head of state to visit China since the outbreak began. He offered his condolences and support to the Chinese people. President Xi hailed the ties between the 2 neighbors. He said they share many common interests and should watch out for each other. Batulga said the Mongolian people were sympathetic to the suffering the Chinese people were currently enduring. The Mongolian president presented President Xi with a parchment, a promise to donate 30,000 sheep.
Анхны санаачлага нь ерөнхийдөө өөрийн санаачлага байсан. За яг энэ цардхалтай холбоотой зүйл бол Хэдийн цагаан сар үеэр маш их идэвхжээд 2 сарын ихэр бол одоо нэлээд хүн төлбөрлөг орсон. Тэгээд тухайд бүгд намт Хятад улсаас Монгол улсаас онц бүгд бүрийг дэлчин сайд өөрчлөгдөв. Тэгээд итэмлэгч уух бичгээ барих үеэр ерөнхийдөө бол яг одоогийн нөхцөл байдалтай холбогдуулаад миний бие одоо Хятад улсад төрийн ажлыг их одоо саналтай бодолтой байна гэдгийг илэрхийлсэн.
A very special gift given at a very special time. It was loaded with the best wishes of the Mongolian people. In Mongolia, promises of donations of sheep immediately started coming from all sectors of society, including businesses and regional governments. Within a matter of days, over 20,000 sheep had been sent from all 21 provinces. And before long, the 30,000 were ready, as promised. Herder Khan Surin was inspired to donate 9 of his own sheep as a token of sympathy.
Тэгээ биднээсээ мал болоод манай Монголын баялаг юм даа. Энэ хөрс тэргэлдээ оронд бас ингээд аюултай өвчин болж юм. Малынхаа дээжээс бас хөрс тэргэлдээ хосуудаа ханд болгож өгж байгаамаа. Ингээд би тэрэнд хүргэж байгаадаа бас өөртөө бас баярлж байна.
A friend in need is a friend indeed. As well as its close neighbors, China could also count on its friends from more distant places. 8 years ago, Frenchman Frédéric Domecq and his wife came to Wuhan, where he taught French at the University of Technology. When the outbreak occurred, Frédéric didn't flee. Instead, he stayed behind to serve as a volunteer.
For ask for volunteer with car for transport some food to hospital. I have a car and I am in Wuhan. I can do it.
China and France have a history of friendship, and after the epidemic struck, the two countries worked to enhance their mutual goodwill. Frederick stayed in Wuhan as a volunteer, expressing his positive feelings for China through his actions. The world was fighting shoulder to shoulder. On February the 20th, President Xi Jinping wrote a reply to Bill Gates, co-chairman of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In his letter, he expressed his appreciation for the foundation's support for China's fight against COVID-19. Bill Gates had previously written to President Xi, expressing his appreciation for the Chinese government and people's actions against the novel coronavirus disease and pledging support for the global response to the outbreak. On January the 27th, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation announced a commitment of $5 million as an urgent donation to support China's response to COVID-19. In the months that followed, the foundation increased funding to $250 million to aid the global fight. Part of this fund was designated to accelerate the development of medicines, vaccines, and diagnostics in China. On February the 14th, a large batch of medical goods donated by the Iraqi people was loaded onto a cargo plane. 10 days earlier, the Iraq-China Friendship Association had sent 110,000 face masks to China, having scoured cities across Iraq to find and buy supplies. Even in a country still dealing with the effects of war and conflict, people still remembered their Chinese friends.
بمساعدة من شركة DHL ولحد الآن عندنا 55 طن وبالوزن بعد ما كامل تصل الكمية إلى 70 طن من المساعدات من الكمامات.
Though separated by mountains, we share the same clouds and rain. The bright moon belongs to both of us, not just to one side. These words, taken from a poem by the 8th century Tang Dynasty poet Wang Changling, were printed on the packaging of supplies donated to China by Japan. If the aid from Japan can be described as poetic, then the assistance from Russia came in a typically robust, straightforward way. On February the 9th, an Illusion cargo plane delivered 23 tons of humanitarian goods directly from Russia to Wuhan. "77 countries, including Belarus, Thailand, Pakistan, the Republic of Korea, the United Kingdom, Italy, Algeria, and Egypt, and 12 international organizations, among them the United Nations Children's Fund, provided China in its time of need with desperately needed goods and materials. More than 170 heads of state and leading figures in international and regional organizations also expressed their condolences and pledged assistance for China. Support even came from the sporting world. The FC Barcelona squad showed their solidarity with China when 22 mascots took to the field before a key La Liga match, wearing special shirts adorned with the slogan, "Stronger Together," along with "China, Come On," written in Chinese. The fight between humanity and the disease is also a contest, one that humanity cannot afford to lose. People, even if they are thousands of miles apart, share the same feelings of love and sympathy.
Stay strong, China.
Constant encouragement and a steady stream of humanitarian goods flooded in from all over the world, giving strength to the Chinese people. China's foreign ministry repeatedly expressed the country's gratitude to the international community for the help it was receiving. A donation can be valued, but the ties of friendship are priceless. The Chinese people will never forget the help they received. This pandemic has taught me nothing but one thing, which is to fight it shoulder to shoulder with you. These words, strikingly poignant today, come from La Peste, or The Plague, a 1947 novel by French writer Albert Camus. Infectious diseases can develop from the undesirable interactions between humans and microorganisms. Unlike earthquakes or typhoons, which come to an inevitable end no matter how much damage they cause, a pandemic can linger for an indeterminate time among the human population. How long it stays around often depends on how humanity reacts to it. Although the global public health system is far more advanced than ever before, there is little to stop new unheralded epidemics from taking hold. A reminder came just over a decade ago when the H1N1 swine flu, having originated in the US and Mexico, spread rapidly to more than 100 countries across Latin America, Europe, the Asia Pacific, Africa, and the Middle East, claiming more than 10,000 lives out of 1 million confirmed cases. History repeatedly reminds us that, unless strong and effective measures are taken, pandemics are impossible to control. Confronted with COVID-19, China adopted the most rigorous disease control and prevention measures ever seen.
预防还是最关键，早发现、早隔离这是最关键的。现在很多国家都开始这么做，但是只有全球都这么合作，才有可能比较早的控制疫情。
The stringent measures China adopted delivered positive results. By the middle of March, the country was reporting virtually no new locally transmitted cases. However, while China, with help from many other countries, was resolutely fighting the disease, a small number of media outlets in the West took the opportunity to attack it. Among them was the Wall Street Journal, which published a tasteless article under the headline, "China is the real sick man of Asia," filled with prejudice and malice. Such attacks were rightfully condemned by the international community.
This is the time for facts, not fear. This is the time for science, not rumors. This is the time for solidarity, not stigma.
Viruses know no borders, and they don't care your ethnicity, the color of your skin, or how much money you have in the bank. The pandemic of influenza in 2009 originated in North America. We didn't call it the North American flu.
In the fight against the epidemic, many positive traits have come to the fore. China's leading medics, scientists, and researchers have done outstanding work. The country discovered the genetic sequencing of the new coronavirus and shared this and other information with the world. It also demonstrated how to build strong defenses against its spread. In these and other ways, China exhibited the great value it places on the common interests of humanity. A nation which values self-improvement and expresses gratitude has friends and a bright future. On March the 11th, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Director General of the WHO, announced that COVID-19 had now officially become a global pandemic. An influenza pandemic is defined by the WHO as the highest classification on the scale of 6. It means the epidemic is capable of spreading across national borders.
Cette épidémie, qui affecte tous les continents et frappe tous les pays européens. Nous sommes en guerre.
Seit dem Zweiten Weltkrieg gab es keine Herausforderung an unser Land mehr.
Now is the time for everyone to stop non-essential contact with others and to stop all unnecessary travel. We need people to start working from home where they possibly can.
Ситуация остается очень сложной. Мы сейчас перед новым, пожалуй, самым напряженным этапом борьбы с эпидемией. Риски заразиться выходят на верхнюю планку. Угроза, смертельная опасность вируса сохраняются. И это может коснуться каждого.
Across the world, countries and regions declared emergencies to deal with COVID-19. Schools were closed, public places shut down, and entertainment and sports events canceled or postponed. The Tokyo Olympics have been put back a year to 2021. International travel, global exchanges, and trade events are all on pause.
Cittadinanza di restare in casa, evitare uscite inutili, evitare gli assembramenti, evitare di andare nei luoghi affollati. Grazie. Emergenza coronavirus.
The world was at a critical juncture. In March, while its own prevention and control work was still under pressure, China was doing more and more to demonstrate its belief in the shared destiny of all humanity. In this, it revealed its response to the well-known Japanese saying, "Lands apart, sky shared." During a telephone conversation with United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, President Xi Jinping announced that China would donate $20 million to the WHO to support the fight against COVID-19. This was followed by a further $30 million, part of which was to be used for building better health and sanitation facilities in developing countries. Xi Jinping sent condolences to the leaders of many countries and regions that had been severely stricken by COVID-19. Holding to the belief that the world is a global community with a shared future and common destiny, he reiterated that China was willing to provide all the help in its power for the global fight against the pandemic. Italy was particularly badly hit. By March the 10th, it had confirmed over 10,000 cases. The first medical experts group from China arrived in Rome on March the 12th, together with 31 tons of medical supplies. These included ICU facilities, protective equipment, and antiviral medicines. There was also human plasma from healthy people and from others who had recovered from the disease.
中国有一个应对这次疫情的防控的方案啊，还有诊疗的目录方案，我们都翻译成了不同的文字啊，我们希望对一方也有帮助啊。
Most of the medical team came from Sichuan, a province with a strong emotional bond with Italy. In 2008, after Wenchuan was struck by a deadly earthquake, a team of 14 medics from Italy flew to Sichuan in southwest China. The team saved many lives, and the people of Sichuan have never forgotten. With COVID-19 taking hold in Italy, many medical professionals from Sichuan volunteered to go and repay the favor. In Italy, the Chinese medical staff passed on vital experience accumulated during the fight against the virus back home.
这个挑战呢，是全人类共同的挑战，不是哪一个国家所能独善其身的。国际流行病、传染病，它是没有国界的，在这个时候更需要开展国际上的合作。
As time passed, the situation in Italy worsened, and the government appealed to China for more help. In a March the 16th telephone conversation with Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte, President Xi pledged that China would send more medical experts and do its utmost to provide medical supplies and other assistance. He stated that China was willing to work with Italy to contribute to international cooperation in combating the epidemic and to the construction of a health Silk Road.
Thank you so much for your support. It's really appreciated by my country.
Fighting Italy, stay strong and take care of our doctors. Long live the friendship between Italy and China. Chinese 17041, ciao.
2 days after the telephone conversation between the two leaders, a second group of 13 medical experts from China arrived in Milan, capital of Lombardy, the worst-hit region in Italy.
La principale difficoltà è quella di trovare medici e infermieri, quindi questo è molto importante, l'aiuto che ci date. Sono di vitale importanza, serviranno per salvare vite, quindi non è solo utile, è assolutamente necessario questo aiuto che ci state dando. Grazie ancora, sie.
Ja sam danas uputio posebno pismo, jer mnogo toga očekujemo i najveće nade polažemo u jedine koji mogu da nam pomognu. U ovoj teškoj situaciji to je Narodna Republika Kina.
In a televised speech, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić explained how badly his country needed help. He made it clear that Serbia was placing much of its hope in China. A team of 6 medical experts from China, bringing with them over a dozen tons of medical supplies, arrived in Belgrade on March the 21st. President Vučić came in person to welcome them. In an expression of his heartfelt thanks, he touched elbows with each team member, a new form of greeting made necessary by the coronavirus. At the bottom of the steps to the aircraft flew the national flags of Serbia and China. President Vučić affectionately kissed a Chinese flag in a powerful display of his gratitude. France was also badly affected by the virus. Medical supplies that arrived from China on March the 18th bore an eye-catching seal designed by a Chinese artist. In the design, the famous landmarks of the Temple of Heaven in Beijing and the iconic Eiffel Tower in Paris were depicted, standing tall and proud together, a symbolic representation of the strength of Sino-French friendship.
Les Chinois, qui commencent progressivement à sortir de ces difficultés, nous ont renvoyé la solidarité et je pense qu'il faut le signaler. Ce sont essentiellement des masques, des gants et des mesures de protection, des outils de protection significatifs. Ça montre que la solidarité, elle peut aussi s'exercer là.
On March the 23rd, President Xi spoke by telephone with the French President Emmanuel Macron. This was the third call between the two leaders since the outbreak of the pandemic. France and China have given each other powerful support in the fight against the coronavirus. They have also steadily developed bilateral cooperation within the framework of the UN and G20. Today, the China-Russia relationship is considered to be the best it has been in history. This has become evident in the mutual help between the two countries in fighting the virus side by side. On April the 11th, a medical experts group from China arrived in Moscow.
Знаете, мы искренне благодарны китайскому народному правительству за то, что в столь непростой период нам оказывается консультативная помощь.
At hospitals and research labs in Moscow designated for fighting COVID-19, the Chinese medical team provided essential training and consultations. They also compared notes with their Russian counterparts. During the 2018 BRICS Forum, the member states had reached a consensus on several health-related issues, including the development of vaccines. The cooperation between China and Russia on COVID-19 was the first time this mechanism was put into practice.
И мы сейчас считаем вместе с нашими китайскими партнерами, что вот такого рода заделы весьма и весьма востребованы. Взаимовыручка является, по-моему, ключевым принципом, которым все страны должны руководствоваться в это непростое время.
Before long, COVID-19 had spread to Africa. By the end of April, more than 30,000 confirmed cases had been reported on the continent. Considering the concerns over sanitation and limited medical facilities, China was aware that the situation was potentially extremely serious and provided urgent help. On April the 16th, 2 medical teams from China, each with a dozen members, boarded 2 planes. One departed from Chengdu, bound for Ethiopia, and the other from Tianjin, bound for Burkina Faso.
That expertise is now needed, not only in Ethiopia and Africa, but I think many European countries are making good use of these Chinese experts. So it is one of, I think, the best contributions and the best way of expressing solidarity.
Sino-African friendship has always been mutually beneficial. In the course of 57 years, China has regularly sent medics to Africa. Today, almost 1,000 Chinese doctors and nurses are working on the African continent. In response to the COVID-19 outbreak, the Chinese government arranged for Chinese experts to train more than 10,000 African medical students for the fight against the epidemic. The Iranian government responded to the epidemic by enforcing social distancing, banning long-distance travel from city to city, and limiting gatherings. All parks and schools were closed. In Laos, where supplies of medical goods have regularly been distributed among the public, a team of 12 medical experts from China has been working alongside the local doctors. Other countries, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Venezuela, and Cambodia, also welcomed Chinese medical experts. They brought with them their precious experience and medical supplies, along with an inspiring sense of confidence and warmth. In countries around the world, people extended the hand of friendship. In the wake of the coronavirus outbreak, countless ordinary citizens, private businesses, and social institutions volunteered to offer assistance in the disease-hit areas. On March the 25th, one batch of medical goods arrived in Kuala Lumpur and another in Bangkok. Both were a donation from Chinese tech giant Alibaba's charity foundation. The supplies included face masks, protective suits, face shields, and test kits.
We welcome these contributions and we hope that it will enable Malaysia to fight the coronavirus issue better.
Alibaba has to date donated medical supplies to more than 70 countries and regions. Among the beneficiaries have been Japan, the Republic of Korea, Iran, Italy, Spain, the US, and nations across Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. China's Silk Road Fund has also provided assistance to countries along the routes of the Belt and Road in the form of increased investment and financing. An act of philanthropy by a Japanese girl caught the attention of people in China. On February the 8th in Tokyo, she spent the whole day bowing to passersby, asking them for donations to aid the suffering city of Wuhan. She was dressed in a traditional Chinese-style qipao. When she was very young, she explained, she and her mother had spent 2 months in China. She was so worried by the epidemic that she felt compelled to do something to help her Chinese friends.
私としてはなんだろう、当たり前にお手伝いをしたいなと思ってやったことだったので、結構こんな大事になっちゃって驚いてるんですけど、少しでも助けになっていればいいなと思っています。
20 days later, a Chinese girl in a playful costume could be seen in a Tokyo street, handing out face masks to passers-by. On the box she was holding was written, "From a grateful Wuhan."
当他们双手接过口罩，用中文跟我说谢谢，跟我说加油的时候，虽然我从厚厚的鹿的脑袋里面，我不太能够看得清外面，在我有限的视线范围内，我看到了世界对我的善意。我也希望我们彼此可以把善良继续下去，可以把对他人的帮助继续下去。
The two girls, through their actions, expressed not only care, support, and gratitude, but also a belief in a global community with a shared future. On March the 18th, a video conference was held at Zhongda Hospital, Southeast University in Nanjing. Professor Teng Gaojun, an expert on interventional medicine, and his colleagues shared their experience from fighting COVID-19. Attending the meeting via video link were medical experts in Pakistan, Iraq, Spain, the UK, Greece, Lebanon, and the US.
我们希望我们走过的弯路别人别走，我们希望我们的取得的经验能让他们共同分享。
6 days earlier, on March the 12th, another much larger conference had taken place in the Chinese capital.
因为现在各国的那个疫情都挺厉害的嘛，都想知道中国到底是什么经验，他们一直也在打电话问你们到底怎么做的。
The briefing on China's experience on COVID-19 response was jointly sponsored by China's National Health Commission and the WHO. It saw Chinese experts share their knowledge and advice with their fellow medical experts in more than 60 countries and international organizations. Leading experts from Shanghai, Hubei, Guangdong, and Sichuan all spoke at the conference.
这个就是当时这个阿塞拜疆，就他们把题目拿过来了，题目拿来我就写两笔这回答的。 这些东西都是完全 open 的，因为疾病这东西没有国界，你没有说可保留的。
So long as the will exists, there is always a way to share. In a program called COVID-19 Frontline, broadcast on China Global Television Network, medical practitioners from China joined their counterparts around the world to discuss approaches to fighting the virus. The video link was made available to medics on the front line. The National Health Commission has a vast reserve of experts who are available for international cooperation. The WHO has regularly invited the renowned respiratory expert Zhongnan Shan and leading doctors to conduct online exchanges. In March and April, President Xi Jinping held telephone conversations or meetings with, or wrote to, foreign leaders on more than 40 occasions concerning the pandemic situation. China established a 2 billion yuan fund for the fight against COVID-19. More than 150 countries and international organizations benefited from it. The country also sent 29 medical expert groups to 27 countries. China had not undertaken emergency humanitarian assistance on such a scale or with such speed since the founding of the People's Republic. China distributed treatment, prevention, and control handbooks to more than 180 countries and a dozen international or regional organizations. It also hosted 120 key video conferences. As the fight against the coronavirus progressed, Chinese manufacturers stepped up the production of medical supplies to meet the needs of both China and other countries around the world. Between March the 1st and May the 31st, China sent 200 countries and regions huge quantities of medical supplies. These included over 70 billion face masks, 340 million protective suits, 115 million goggles, 96,700 ventilators, 225 million test kits, and more than 40 million infrared thermometers. From the top leader down to the ordinary people, from the government to businesses, from the physical in the form of medical supplies to the intangible experience gained in the protection and control effort, China's global assistance covered every angle. This is the true vision of a global community with a shared future in action. Everyone could sense the warmth spreading around the world.
Pakistan is exposed to it. We will try and handle it with the help of our friends, with the help of the understanding, the technical understanding of the Chinese how to handle it. We will try and handle it, and we will also overcome this virus soon enough.
خب حادثه مهمی هست. به نظر من دولت چین هم احساس مسئولیت کرده برای مردم خودش، هم برای مردم دنیا.
Dostal jsem odpověď, že tímto problémem je výrazný nedostatek zdravotnických prostředků.
And we got really good news today that the Chinese government is going to facilitate a donation of 1,000 ventilators that will come into JFK today.
This is a tremendous help of China. It is a model for what the rest of the world should be doing. Instead of blaming each other for what's happening, they should all start working together to help each other. And this is concrete proof.
The world was making progress in the deadly fight against the pandemic. Before long, spring was sweeping across the northern hemisphere. Mother Nature was carrying on as usual, turning the earth green again. But the pandemic continued its rampage, devastating the global economy. If the pandemic is to be defeated, members of the global village cannot fight alone. They must unite. On March the 26th at 8 p.m. Beijing time, the extraordinary G20 Leaders Summit on COVID-19 convened. This crucial event, held via video link, was attended by leaders around the world. President Xi Jinping delivered a speech titled, "Working Together to Defeat the COVID-19 Outbreak."
新冠肺炎疫情正在全球蔓延，国际社会最需要的是坚定信心、齐心协力、团结应对，全面加强国际合作，凝聚起战胜疫情强大合力，携手赢得这场人类同重大传染性疾病的斗争。
President Xi outlined a four-point proposal: be resolute in fighting an all-out global war against COVID-19. Make a collective response for control and treatment at the international level, support international organizations in playing an active role, and enhance international macroeconomic policy coordination. Unity, cooperation, and coordination were the key words in Xi Jinping's speech. The philosophical core of his remarks was the concepts of China's responsibility and a global community with a shared destiny.
我呼吁20国集团成员采取共同举措，减免关税，取消壁垒，畅通贸易，发出有力信号，提振世界经济，复苏士气。
The Chinese president also said that discussions were needed regarding the creation of regional emergency liaison mechanisms to enable a quicker response to public health emergencies. Such a mechanism had already been established between China and the Republic of Korea. This mechanism was the first initiated by China with a foreign country to coordinate their COVID-19 prevention and control efforts.
这次呢，很大程度上是针对新冠疫情来建立的这样一种公共卫生方面的联防联控机制。那么全球化的大背景之下，类似的这种挑战，可能今天发生在公共卫生领域，明天可能会发生在其他的应急领域。那么可以说，它这个示范作用呢，在其他领域也会给我们提供一些借鉴。
As the COVID-19 outbreak continued to spread worldwide, China stepped up its efforts to deal with it. On May the 18th, at the opening ceremony of the 73rd World Health Assembly held via video link, Xi Jinping delivered a speech titled Fighting COVID-19 Through Solidarity and Cooperation and Building a Global Community of Health for All. In it, he put forward 5 proposals for advancing global cooperation. On January the 18th, 2017, Xi Jinping, speaking at the Geneva office of the United Nations, had reiterated his call to work together to build a community of shared future for mankind. In his speech, he had said, pandemic diseases such as bird flu, Ebola, and Zika have sounded the alarm for international health security. 3 years later, his words are ringing true.
随着全球化的发展，我们在看到很多问题，包括公共卫生安全问题的时候，更多要考虑到的是各国之间它的这个命运是相连的。所以应该说，中国从理念的层面呢，给了世界一个重新思考如何行动的一种启示。这是中国的智慧，也是中国的方案。
Today, the world is facing change on a scale never seen before. The virus knows no borders. It's endangering the whole world, threatening public health, destroying the global economy, shaking political structures, and turning society as we know it on its head. The once-in-a-century pandemic is continuing its rampage, threatening to destroy everything in its path. The world is learning a harsh lesson about the need for cooperation. Guarding against and defusing even the smallest danger are vital for human society. Global public health management needs to be improved. This is a task the world's people must undertake as a matter of the utmost urgency.
People are suffering, sick, and scared. And current responses at the country level will not address the global scale and complexity of the crisis.
Confronted with the devastating pandemic, the global community is asking, as the Roman philosopher Seneca put it, what happens to the world and what should we do? The answer we come up with must be strong and definitive. The world is large, its skies reach high and its roads run long. The path to creating a global community with a shared future is a difficult one, but it promises a bright future just ahead. China is advancing towards it, arm in arm with its friends around the world.
山昆仑冲霄汉，长江黄河江河流，风也有，雨也有，风雨无阻，向前走。几千年的脚步，从未停留。历史的节里，手牵手。泰山昆仑冲霄汉，长江黄河江